Competition Bureau is beginning an investigation into Canada's airline industry. The Bureau says the domestic air travel market is concentrated with only two major airlines, and there are concerns over barriers to entry into the market, as well as, the Bureau says, an increase in airfares and customer complaints. Let's get more on how this probe will work. We're joined by Anthony Durocher, Deputy Commissioner of the Competition Promotion Branch at the Competition Bureau of Canada. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
My pleasure.
So, I mean, we've known that we've had only two major players for years now. What's the catalyst for you beginning the investigation?
Well, fundamentally, the airline sector is important for Canadians, for consumers. It's important for our economy. And what we want to do is to assess how is competition working. What is the state of play? What are the barriers to entry and expansion? How has this evolved? And what are the impediments to consumer choice? And what we want to do is take a deep dive and make recommendations to government as to what steps need to be taken to increase competition in this very important sector of the economy.
But what's new? You say there's been an increase in customer complaints. What sort of complaints are you talking about?
Well, that's something that we've taken note of, that there have been more complaints filed in the last couple of years in respect to this industry. And also, as you've noted, there is a perception that pricing is higher in Canada than in other countries. We know it's a concentrated sector with two airlines controlling the majority of the share. And also, we have seen recent exit from smaller carriers as well that could be an important source of competition in the sector. So all these factors have led us to determine that it is in the public interest to assess the state of competition, conduct a market study in the sector, and at the end of the day, we're going to produce a report with findings to propose tangible ways to increase competition in the industry, because we know that competition means lower prices, more choice, more innovation for Canadians.
Of course, I'm thinking about Lynx Air. They just hit the wall. They're selling off their life jackets and their oxygen masks, apparently, to try to recoup some of the losses. I don't know if that'd be a good look, one of those oxygen masks going out for the evening. I'm just looking at the timetable here, and it's really helpful that you provide it. So you're launching, it's a consultation, and you're saying it's not, you're not looking into specific allegations of wrongdoing. So the deadline for written submissions is August, but then you think you won't complete the market study and publish the report through to June of next year. Why would it take almost a year to publish the study?
Because we want to be thorough. We think that this is an important sector, and there are many companies and interested parties that we need to obtain information from. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we provide a complete set of findings and recommendations. So we will be moving quickly, but we do want to make sure that we are thorough in getting all the information we need to provide meaningful recommendations to government.
Can you give us an impression here, and I know it's early days, but at first glance, does Canada have much less competition than other countries, for example? I mean, Europe, I'm thinking about Ryanair, of course. They've revolutionized the air travel industry.
Yeah. Well, that is certainly a perception of many, that in Canada we have two large airlines that control the majority of the market. And part of it, of course, is we need to be mindful of the geography and the way our population is dispersed around the country. People who live in remote northern communities as well, who rely on these services. So there is certainly the business reality of operating an airline in Canada. But what we want to see is, can we do more? How can we lower barriers to entry and expansion to enable smaller airlines to compete and to offer more choice for Canadian consumers in the marketplace?
That's interesting, lowering barriers to entry. That'll be I'm trying to think. WestJet has complained. I think Air Canada has too, about high charges, airport charges, etc. in Canada. Could that be part of the? And they say that's contributed to high airfares. Could that be part of the solution? I know it's too early to say anything definitive, but could that be part of the solution? Cutting fees for new upstart airlines.
Yeah. So right now we're at the stage of the process where we're consulting with Canadians and with interested parties as to the scope of our review. So there's a 3-week period where people can give us their views on the issues that we're proposing to study. But really, what we're looking for is to examine issues that are meaningful to impacting competition. So in respect of airports, we're proposing not to look at airport governance issues, except as they relate to competition for domestic airline services. So we expect a number of parties, including the airlines, are going to give us their views as to what are the issues that we should be looking into, and we certainly look forward to reviewing all these submissions that we're going to receive as a result of this consultation.
Oh, I'm sure the airlines will make their views known. I'm sure you'll be getting major document dumps from them. Now, just briefly, the government has passed or proposed, I'm not sure they've actually passed it, legislation to strengthen competition oversight. Can you remind me, has that new legislation been passed? Because I think it is part of this it's making this investigation easier.
Yeah, so in the past year, we have seen very significant change to our competition laws, positive change. Parliament has significantly strengthened the Competition Act. And one of these legislative changes relates to market studies. And this would be our first market study under this new power. And essentially it involves giving us the power to compel information from market participants, which is something we didn't have before. We have now, and it's certainly very important. And overall, Parliament is continuing to modernize our competition legislation. And there's another bill before Parliament right now, Bill C-59, that would further strengthen the Competition Act. And we think these changes are very positive because we need more competition in Canada, and enabling us to protect and promote competition through a more modern legislation is very important.
Sorry, very briefly. So previously, industries or companies could say, nah, we're just not going to give you that information.
That's correct. We previously had to rely on voluntary cooperation for market studies. So that was obviously a major limitation that we had. Sometimes companies cooperate fully, but other times not at all. So this is an important change. Now, when we conduct market studies, we can go to court to obtain documents, data, and required information to help make sure that we are making informed findings and meaningful recommendations. So definitely a positive change to our law.